this is a rising issue, DRP, MRP, in our industry, and get tons of questions about it. And so I'm glad to have Kurt from a couple different areas, large contractor or contractor, and then in the private equity side. Tim is an attorney, Tim Johnson, here in the Minneapolis area. I want his perspective so that you guys can kind of understand the full Monty, so to speak, of what this thing is all about. And then Mike and I have spent a lot of time just traveling, talking to different companies and insurance carriers as well. So hopefully we're going to be able to give you some information. And here's what I hope for. I hope that you don't leave here saying, well, they said, and like it's fact. This is informational, right? I want you to have data points to take, absorb, and see whether or not it fits in your business. But I'm going to make this assured promise to you. MRP and DRP is not going away. It's not. We can wish it away, we can hope it away. It's not going away. So if you're not familiar, MRPs are managed repair companies. And basically the way I see MRPs is they are the middleware between the claim initiator, which is a carrier, and getting the work and services provided by a qualified contractor for the pure sake of bringing the homeowner back to complete and wholeness, right? And so with a managed repair, there are all kind of names. I don't want to bring them up because y'all will start fussing and fighting and throwing stuff. Some of the names I would bring up, so I'm just going to hold off on that. But there are different variations of MRP, but they're that middle piece. Insurance companies now are shifting, because many of you were in the business in 2010. You know, back in 2010 when I got into business, farmers had a program called First Choice. Any of y'all remember that? Yeah, Tony does, right? And so, and basically what happened is Tony didn't have anybody between him and the carrier, right? Carrier had claims that they wanted and trusted Tony to perform, and there was a direct relation. Am I right? You had a direct relationship with the carrier. My humble opinion is that that's where we're returning. I think middleware creates a lot of additional cost. It's unloaded a lot of administration from the carrier level to having someone else as a TPA handle it, but they're starting to see it's such an escalation in cost. And they're starting to see a revival, so to speak, of contractor networks growing out, like Kurt's a part of building and others are. And I just think you need to be mindful of the growth that is about to happen. Am I saying you should or shouldn't participate in it? No. I'm just saying you need to be aware, have as much data as you have that you want available to you to make a quality decision whether or not this is for you and your business. You got anything to open up with?
Just want to make sure that everybody really is crystal clear on that difference. Is everybody pretty clear on the difference between a managed repair and a direct repair? And the fact that the reason why direct repair is really a worldwide, that's if you're going to try to chase a hailstorm in Australia, for example, or Europe, which hail does hit, you're not door knocking those countries because it's all done by direct repair, which means it doesn't matter if you're door knocking and get there first. The carrier in every policy already has a right to repair phrase in the policy that they just do not invoke typically in the United States. That's what we're saying. There are reasons for that, and the reason why it's been slow to adopt here. But I do want to make sure everybody's clear. The difference between an MRP and a DRP, that managed repair is typically, can we just call it a software? Normally it's a software company that's existing to take away the friction and the headaches from the carrier. And the carrier says, no problem, for 10% or whatever of the claim, you can manage it. That's where the managed repair comes from. Direct repair is very different in that it's going directly with the insurance company is basically saying, we have the right to repair, and there is no say from the homeowner. So think of this, and this is why it's important. The homeowner does not get to choose their contractor.
Now that's not happening now.
No.
It's not, but that option is there.
The tipping point is getting close. That's
right.
And so that's the other part I do want to make sure you all hear. This is not sky is falling.
No.
Y'all are going to be out of business in 5 years. That's not what we're saying at all, and I hope you don't take that away either. So
Kirk, let me just kind of talk to us about, from a contractor perspective, as well as with the private equity piece, where DRP and MRP fit in, and your opinions on that.
Yeah, I mean, our objective is to disrupt the industry in a way that, as I said earlier, we will offer extended coverage service over a large geography area with the right communication to carriers, with the standard implementation, quality, quantity, in some ways to take that away from the managed repair program, right? Because in my opinion, they're making a percentage just by controlling it. There's a need for it, right? Because carriers don't have the time, right? But what if we could do that and show that we can handle large-scale claims over a large surface area and save them money, but we all still make money, right? Because if you think about it, I don't know up here, I don't work up here personally, but you know, you've got ladder assist, you've got adjusters coming out, you've got people challenging desk adjusters, you've got engineers coming out, you've got, like, this thing just keeps going, right? And every time this happens, this costs carriers money. I have, since I've started in the industry, been on a mission to say, how do we get everyone to win? How do we get the homeowner to win? How do we get the carrier to win? How do we get the roofer to win? And how do we get the customer to win, right? Because in my opinion, for example, if you got into an accident today with your car, like, you know, you make a phone call, you drop it off somewhere, you pick it up and it's done, right? You didn't have to go learn about light bulbs and paint quality and bumpers and all this bullshit like homeowners have been forced to do on their property, right? Like, they shouldn't have to go into all of this, right? How can we solve that problem? So it's really actually, it's not really about trying to take anything away from anyone. It's really actually trying to make things better, effective, and efficient for everyone, right? The other thing I'd like to share is, and I still think if you think about it, like in Texas, like McKinney, Plano, Frisco has a storm, 300,000 homes get hit, right? You know, maybe we do 10,000 homes. Like, it just puts it into perspective of scale, right? There can probably be multiple groups that can form, that can do direct repair programs with carriers, and we still wouldn't even have scratched the surface on how much damage is out there, right? And how much can actually be serviced, right? I can throw out a note of caution. Anyone want to guess why most roofers are looking to do a managed repair program or a direct repair program? Sorry?
Bringing sales. They have sales volume.
Yeah. Now they're minimizing having to go chase sales, right?
Yeah.
So they're looking to make the job easier, right? Remember a pleasure trap? Everyone's looking for the most amount of pleasure, the least amount of resistance, the path of least resistance, right? I want to caution you about what you wish for. Because at the end of the day, for example, I think like logistics companies that do work for like Amazon and all these kind of places, right? They have, like, you can get routes and you can get things and you can make a lot of money. But you have like strikes. And if you exceed certain things, you're out. It's all gone. So understand that if you like are chasing this mentality and this thought process, that you're chasing high accountability.
Yeah.
So in some ways, you may be moving away from chasing sales, but you're just replacing it with something else. When I started talking today, I said, stop chasing easy.
Yeah.
Sometimes what you're doing is easy. And taking on that behemoth could be very stressful. So be careful about what you're chasing and what you're wishing for when you think about this, because there's going to be high levels of accountability to handle direct repair work. Not pushing you away from it. I'm just saying, be careful what you're chasing.
Yeah.
Because you may look back on it and say, man, we had it made in the shade and we went and ruined it all.
Tim, from a legal perspective, That, I mean, there's a lot of noise in PAs, there's a lot of noise on the policyholders. I mean, talk to us about what you're seeing and what you're experiencing and what you feel like the industry is looking like with DRP and MRP going forward.
Yeah, so to answer the first question I always get, is MRP, DRP legal? Isn't that steering, price fixing, monopolizing, all of those things? There is a world where it could get to that level. We don't live in that world yet. There's still competition in those marketplaces. As far as DRP, almost every policy you pick up has a right to repair. We just don't see it exercised here, as you guys say. Almost any of the carriers, any of the common ones that you work on, if you read their loss payment clause, they will pay the cost of repair, or they can elect to do that at their choice. They just never make the choice, or they don't usually make the choice here. I've had a carrier elect a right to repair once in my entire legal career, and that's when they said there was zero damage and we want a verdict of like $4 million. Then the carrier goes, oh, just kidding, we'll repair that one. Because it would have been cheaper for them, obviously. So the question of whether it's legal, for sure, it's legal. Whether it gets to a scale that it's a monopoly, unlikely, but it's definitely not that now. So the shift is, if you feel it, if you feel the tension, it's about money. Insurance companies are about money. If you all get so good at your jobs that it becomes more expensive to deal with you than it does to do something different, they will do something different. And that's not a knock on you guys. Hell, that might even be a compliment that we're even having this conversation. You all have gotten so good at learning how to do the right things and learning how to make sure they're accountable for every line item that you're going to see some of that. But I don't think it's bad for the business, right? This business evolves all the time. The pendulum swings back and forth. And the good companies evolve and they grow, and it kills the chucking and trucks that already are making your life hard. The cream always rises to the top in your business, so I don't think it'll be a killer. I think it'll elevate a lot of companies.
So I want to spend most of the rest of the time just talking, getting questions from you guys about this, but I want to point out a couple of good things. I was with a managed repair company for 3.5 years, and most of my job was to deal directly with Farmers and Safeco executive teams regarding speed to claim and the SLAs, the service level agreements, and that's what Kirk was talking about earlier. When you take on this world, you think you can freewheel it, you're wrong. They have requirements in terms of status of job that if you do not meet, you will no longer get claims. So one of the contentions I've always felt with carriers is this: look, when do they call us to start mitigating their claims? Storms. You don't get day claims with MRPs. When a storm hits, that's when you're going to get your activity. So a storm hit last night right here, right? MRP start dialing your number right here and say, hey, I need you to take a reduced compensation for running this claim, or you can go out and knock doors, or however y'all go to market, and you're going to make all the money. That's the big challenge with MRPs, is being able to find coverage. Can I tell you this? Whether it's 5% or 13% or 20% that people seem to think the amount of claims that come through DRP or MRP processes, the only reason it's not higher is because they don't have enough of you on roster yet. When they get enough of you on roster, game changes. The percentage of claims will change. The whole idea, now whether you believe this or not, it's I'm not here to discuss, right? The fact, I meet with carriers regularly, and all I'm meeting with them for is just extract information that I can come back to y'all and go watch it, or maybe here's a good way to consider how you're going to business in this market. The other thing is you're making a fatal mistake, in my opinion, if you take the same people that are doing your regular forms of business, however you got that set up, and transition them into doing this type of work. It doesn't make sense. These products, in my opinion, and Kirk, you can argue with me about it, I think you agree with me, these are not as highly, if even, commissioned kind of jobs. You need an entirely separate division if you're getting fully in this to implement these kind of strategies. Number one, the resource requirement from an MRP is going to be very, very high. You've got to have dedicated people on staff, or this is going to become a miserable mess quick. The other thing that I think you need to be mindful of is, depending on the MRP, their level of agreement with the carrier, you need to not do work you're not good at just to get in the business. You're going to make a mistake. So when the biggest problems I had administrating an MRP was finding roofers to do stuff they weren't good at. Like, dude, leave the windows alone if you don't do windows. But let me tell you this, the way you're quickly getting in trouble is when you're billing for work you don't do. I spent 3 years in one 6-month period with Liberty Mutual and Safeco's auditing team. We had a big storm in Dallas in 2014, I think, 2015 maybe. And I mean, we had 2,000 claims a week coming in that I had to find contractors for. One day at 9 o'clock at night, my phone rings as the lead auditor of claims with Liberty Mutual. He said, "Hey, Reggie." I'm like, "Yes, sir." He said, "I'll be such and such place in Dallas in the morning. You need to pick me up." And never gave me any other instruction. I pick him up, and for the next 7 days, from sun up to sundown, all we did was drive around and get up on roofs and see if the drip edge was replaced. I didn't have to get on the roof to see that. If the the flue cap, if everything they paid for was paid, that was work performed. That's the problem. You're not going to be able to do this just as a revenue source without being accountable. So you need to think through this stuff. And the quicker you understand SLAs, and then I'm going to be quiet and I'll let you ask your questions. But an SLA is a service level agreement, and generally what you see is it mirrors the flow of the claim. F&OL, first notice of loss, the claim comes in, they send the claim out to whoever's handling it, and they have a requirement of contact inside that SLA. How quick you have to contact the homeowner. Then you have a set time to where you can go do a site inspection, and everything just flows like that. So if you're not built process-wise, this is a difficult task. I promise you. Is it good? Absolutely, but it has to be done right. Go ahead. What was your question?
So I'm curious. On the front end of that, you said you probably would want to have a different portion of your business handling an MRP. Mm-hmm. Okay, I understand that. Especially with the rip off the top. The third party is going to take because it's rich.
Yeah.
And it'll affect your bottom line.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's going to affect the commission of whomever's going out there. So with that said, the other thing I'm thinking is, so now I'm doing MRPs with our friends over there at Liberty Mutual. Okay. But how does that affect the other side of my business then? That's knocking on the doors because those two. And what if they're on the same street?
Yeah.
Do you have any experience with that? In those places where you were running these 2,000 claims, am I marrying myself to a lower margin in my business forever and for always because I've accepted this MRP?
So I'm not going to answer that. I'm going to let Kurt. We had this conversation last night.
Yeah. So does anyone know why you would want to have employees handle leads from carriers? Legally. Did you know that if you supply an appointment to a 1099, they're an employee? First thing, just an FYI. There's actually, I don't want to use, we're live, right? Yeah. There's ways to work through that, but
no one cares, by the way.
Yeah, but
very small.
I understand. But know this. You are now supplying almost like if you think about desk adjusters, right? They get like 20 claims, they're going to go work through them, and then they refresh it, and they get another 20, right? Well, the same process will probably happen with claims when you get them. You're going to have a bunch of leaders, a bunch of PMs. They're all employees. They're going to service these and going to service those customers and do it according to the agreement, right? Those have to be employees. That's the first thing. So I don't think anyone really knows this, right? But the way that I envision it is that at the end of the day, hunters will always make more money.
The what?
Hunters will always make more money, right? So I'm going to keep hunters. Right? That's why my theory was to build out a separate department. So let me tell you my thought here. How many of you have lost people that were really good folks, spoke well, professional, good backgrounds, everything, and you lost them because they don't like knocking doors, okay? But they were really good folks. They spoke well, they communicated, and you lost some talented people, right? So think about how you can scale and grow your business now. Because any of those folks, you can plug them into this side of the business, right? And look at, most of these folks may be making 50, 70, 80 grand a year. You can plug them into this side. All they got to do is service these leads for the carrier and for everyone else. And maybe you get them to make 120, 130 grand a year, and they get a company truck and a laptop, and you run that division. And you can run that division with leads, just like in the insurance. They got desk adjusters, they got regular adjusters. It's a process, it's a system, it's a technology. It's about how effectively you run it through a process, right? And it's about getting that process in place. I wouldn't necessarily be in a rush. Now, unless there's some conflict, you know, maybe a carrier is like, look, if this is what we're doing, then I don't know if that's going to happen, right? Where the carrier's going to say, I don't want you doing this side of the business and this side of the business.
I would expect that a carrier who puts you under an MRP or DRP would not allow you to hunt on their other claims if they didn't have that model.
So that's a business choice, right? That's going to be a scale business choice for you. Like, you know.
It's got to be a separate division.
Yeah, something.
I didn't want those leads.
Yeah. Well, we've never chased them. We've never joined a managed repair program. We've always said, hey, look, we're currently hunters. We have a vision for how we want to change the industry and what we want to do. But as of now, this is how we do it, and we hunt all our business.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you from personal experience, most of the guys that I worked with over 3.5 years that didn't separate the business constantly lost money.
Yeah, we cut it off real quick.
You got to separate.
It's the same as solar.
Does anyone conflated their two businesses?
Absolutely.
They treated it as if it was a direct.
Yeah, and there's not as much money generally on that side in terms of, because there's
3
fees.
to 5%.
Yeah, or 10. Yeah, or maybe they're taking all your material rebates. That's the last.
If you have the one or two guys that can work on it,
Right.
I can see where that could work.
Yeah.
Well, think about do any of you do solar?
Yeah. We just.
Yeah, so everyone went around the country saying all these roofers need to do solar. Let's sign you up and let's get you doing solar. Hold up. You don't even like running like the world's best roofing business yet. Like something's going to become a red-headed stepchild. All you're doing is dividing time.
Yeah.
And some people say it's more meat off the bone, but I say you need to master something first. Right? Forget that shit. Master what you've got. Become world class at what you got first. Right? It's just like investments. All these gurus out there saying, what are they saying? You need 7 streams of income to become a millionaire, and this and that and this and that. Listen, man. Take care of that first one, become world class at it, and then take the excess money and invest it passively, but become world class at something first, because in most cases, those new things that you add mess up the main thing, right? So, like I said earlier, be careful what you wish for. We brought on solar at one point, by the way. I did not hire one person from roofing for the solar. Everyone came externally, totally separate division, created a referral program between the two. No one can ever switch over from one to the other, and it's absolutely separate. And we only do it as a convenience for our existing roofing customers. We don't chase it. Like, I'm not looking to chase that business and make it a big business. It's a convenience factor. Actually, at this point, I shifted it to the office. It's run by a team in the office. That's it.
Just kind of curious, are you finding an advantage with that for your detach and resets for the new clients that you're bringing in, so that you don't have to wait for long lead times for, the original solar company to detach and reset the array?
Yeah, I mean, there's some benefits there, but once again, I'm not even trying to grow that. It's a convenience. If I'm you, I'd become great at roofing first. I wouldn't even think about that. And unless you really, and we're going off topic a little, but unless you're looking to go get a warehouse, bring in all your own materials, hire the engineers, and do the whole thing soup to nuts, with raising interest rates and using EPCs and red lines and all the rest of it, those margins are getting squeezed anyway. And so the juice is not worth the squeeze right now, in my opinion, unless you're controlling it from start to finish. So unless you're ready to go throw the time, money, and energy into developing the whole program, I'd stay away from it and become a master at roofing.
Good. Questions? Come on, boys and girls. Yes, sir.
So I can see the insurance company wanting to lower administrative costs, but are they they also, with those programs, going to try to control the claim costs? Like, say, hey, this, you're our preferred contractor, but we expect you to accept this, you know, this price.
Yeah, you know when you go and you have a health insurance claim, the doctor's already got to deal with the whoever insurance company you have that says we do this exam, you get $140. We do this shot, you get $10. It probably went a lot like that. In fact, they'll probably just transpose that model. I would expect 100% over.
And to Tim's point, that's the way managed repair started. It started at managed care level. So back in the 80s, the MRP, in particular, health insurance company, you'd go in the hospital with a cold and stay a week. And so finally, the cost of care got astronomical, especially in the healthcare environment. And so they started saying, they came up with a system called DRP, which is Diagnostic Research Group, which means based upon your diagnosis, you get X amount of dollars allocated to the cost of your hospital stay. Once you leave that area, you're on your own. Well, it left that, it became PPOs that we're all familiar with. And so the deal with PPOs and HMOs is what we're going to see is they said this. Here's what we're going to do, Mr. Doctor. How many visits do you have a day? And we got 10, 15. How would you like 150? What do you mean? Yeah, we'll drive. We have what you want. You have what we want. You have the care we need. We have the customers you want.
In network.
Exactly. Bring them into our network, and so they start driving it, and their only requirement was we have pre-service agreement on pricing. Then it went from healthcare to these repairs, remember? Hey, these repair shops start popping up everywhere. On the automobiles, same thing. We got what you want. We got claims, you got ability, I'll shuffle them to you, but we got to agree on pricing up front. And so this is nothing new. It's just migrated from health to exterior first, interior first, because then water and fire got involved. They did the same thing, right? And now it's just here. So this has been a process, and the model, as Tim was saying, is already in place. You're going to see it come harder with the same repercussions, I think, to the supplier, which is us.
But let's be clear, that hasn't eliminated private doctors, it hasn't eliminated private repair shops. Like, those businesses exist, right?
Right.
That didn't destroy them. It's just now some people went for the low margin, high volume, and some people are going to go for high volume, low volume, high dollar.
It's just a different model.
Yeah.
I mean, even the car places, they're calling up like Caliber and all these places saying, hey, can you go and open up a shop here? Can you go and open up a shop there? Because there's still, even though there's tons of those, and they're doing billions of dollars in business a year, there's still, like right now, if you were to call like in Dallas, Caliber or whatever, they're 3-4 months behind. Right? Like it's still, even though these programs are in place. So I think that the point at the beginning was, don't let this make you feel like, oh, the world's coming to an end and the business is changing. This is just another avenue.
Yeah.
It's an emerging market, though. I'd be aware of it if I was in your space.
Yeah.
No doubt, no doubt.
Yes, sir.
What's your opinion of the model of like a roof marketplace?
Yeah.
They don't
So just so you
themselves an MRP.
Right.
Yeah, well, okay. We'll let it. So how many are familiar with Roof Marketplace? So it started down in Florida, and so the conception behind it is let's grab some of the well-vetted, people been in business for a long time, have the highest status with a manufacturer, and have easy access to training, right? We're going to take the best of the best contractors with enhanced warranties built into it, but then we're going to take, at any time, we're going to take 3 of those and give us a retail bid. Stop the gamification. You'll hear that a lot from those guys. Stop the gamification of your claims, but we're going to take 3 bids, but the homeowner in that case should be able to get one of the premier roofs because we're taking the top manufacturers from the top contractors from the top manufacturers, and it's going to be that. So what ended up happening, and what we've seen as a result of this, because the beta went very well down in Florida, they were very successful with those carriers there. So then they picked up more carriers, and meanwhile, because all of those SLAs were being able to be met, now they're saying that we're not an MRP because it's very different than your typical MRP, because business is not necessarily being driven from the front end. It's being, hey, we're going to let everybody have, or at least 3 people at a time, have access to every claim. Now, one of the issues, that, and again, I'm going to go back to some of the questions you had, because you should be writing down these questions, because anytime you're going to be starting to look at how to integrate one of these companies into your company, processes at least, you need to have those questions that you need to ask, such as, what does that pricing look like? When and where and how much, and what am I allowed to supplement for or not able to supplement for? So you know what you're working with. But one of the important ones is, and it might tie some of this stuff together, there is still a close rate to these MRPs, which means if XYZ Mutual had 100,000 homes in this massive storm, and they are very in bed with this MRP, that doesn't mean 100,000 homes are going through the MRP. What is that close rate? Because the close rate actually happens at, again, FNOL, first notice of loss. Mr. and Mrs. Smith calls in the claim. Call center takes that claim. At that point, that call center representative says, by the way, we work with XYZ managed repair program. Homeowner says, no, I'm not interested in that, I'm going with the contractor. So that's why in any neighborhood that you're at, if there's 100 claims from a single carrier, you might only have 5 of those going through the MRP, the other 95 go to door knockers in the standard way from you guys. So one of the good questions to make sure you're asking is, what is your close rate? Because that can fluctuate significantly from company to company and region to region. So these are all companies. So that's kind of, as far as MRPs go, I don't really mind Roof Marketplace. At least we know under that model, the prices are being set by the contractors.
How many of you dealt with MadSky at some time in your past? Yeah. So Roof Marketplace, MadSky, Crawford, whoever you want to mix, this is the way I look at it. It's like Baskin Robbins. There's like all kind of flavors.
31 of them.
And I thought it was 64. That, you know, I need
Your
to
attention to
clean
detail is uncanny.
I know, right? So, my point is, there's going to be varied of opportunities, however they look. Just find one, if you're interested, that fits your business model and that you can adapt to. Question, anyone? Yes, sir.
Or don't, right?
Well, Mike,
That's an answer.
Mike, how are you seeing Roofable being utilized in the storm market?
Yeah, well, specifically as in real time right now, it's a way to blanket a vast service area, because I don't care how many people you have on staff, you are not going to outrun the internet. And so what ends up happening, if you have Roofable or Instant Estimator on your website, you're putting this great big blanket and we put you right exactly where you want to be, over top of whatever the hail swath is. Now your homeowners have instant access to you through the internet, getting exactly the information they want. Now, if you know your numbers, again, a lot of the friction, a lot of this stuff is if contractors would be just a little bit more transparent with their price, I think the entire process is probably going to be a little bit smoother. So if you know what your price is, once there's a peril, it's covered peril, and you know how much it costs, you know the scope and how much it costs to repair it, you can go ahead and be transparent with that price. We all know what our prices are because we're using Xactimate, right? So in the case of ours specifically, you can be very specific on that. You don't even care if a carrier is going on your site and typing in that address of their claim and getting that price, because you've got it very meticulously laid out. These Xactimate line items are covered. That's on every single house. These are the things we typically supplement for. So if it's, and we're going to throw some numbers out, if it's $690 a square plus supplements, that's what's on your website, that's what's on your price. What I want to do, I love the question though, as far as other technologies, because we're not the only thing that's happening. This is why, one of the reasons for this panel is that we've got multiple variables that are all converging simultaneously, which is crazy technologies, mature money, larger companies and a lot of friction in the storm restoration process. And you're putting all these things together and putting it in a blender. That's what's pushing the evolution, and that's why we're having this panel today.
Anybody else?
Did you plant him to ask you?
That I love that question, by the way. I'm gonna go ahead and give you. Rufo. Yeah.
Any other questions?
We're at a 66% close rate for Rufo.
Look, see, your price just went up. There you go.
That sales rep support is great.
There's
That's
another
awesome.
one,
It's awesome. Yeah,
You guys getting rich.
I know.
Does Kurt know what roof is?
We don't use it,
No, but do you know what it is?
no.
Give him a little quick. Right,
So,
there's no
okay.
tools in this.
Right?
I have a sales pitch coming on.
Right.
No, we're not going to blow this meeting by talking about tools.
Just give him 1 minute on it.
Yeah, 1 minute. So really, our technology is allowing we have the ability to get the size of a structure, up to 10 structures on a property. So a homeowner comes on the contractor website, puts in their address, their house pops up in up to 10 different structures, and immediately, we already have all of them measured. So with another couple clicks of a mouse, with pulling all of your branding, all of your value propositions through this process, now the homeowner instantly, within seconds, has an estimate from you for their house. It's
15
exactly
seconds.
what they want,
15 seconds.
but it's exactly what they want in the time frame that they want it. From the comfort of the couch, they can get this. And you can do that for retail, you can do it for storm, but ultimately, we already know over 70% of adults in America are already doing all of their purchasing online. This is bringing that experience to the local contractor, and that's really important. That's where it's giving it to you before some of the bigger guys. We want to make sure to push off the Amazon as long as possible, because if you own that technology, the Amazon is not going to take that market share from you anytime soon.
Can I ask a question for Tim? I wanted to ask, because I was thinking about the legal ramifications of MRPs. And, my question for you is there something people should watch out from signing if they're involving themselves in these things? What should they be looking? I know there's some of the things you guys covered, the things to be looking for, but is there anything else that you'd watch out for, just to not put themselves in a position where they can't operate the rest of their business if they sign something from a carrier? Because I know that can happen with manufacturers where you sign something and then it's hard to extricate yourself.
That's actually a really good question. So has anybody actually received a contract for one of these yet? How many pages was that thing?
9.
That's it? Oh my God, the last one I read was like 30 pages. All right, so the reason I bring that up is because along with the insurance companies, like basically unlimited financial resources, they can spend some of that on a legal team to make sure that that contract is as company friendly as it can possibly be. So you cannot sign one of those without having a lawyer look at it. It doesn't have to be me, pick anybody. You got to have a lawyer look over that. Some of the things are inability to compete on other claims, which we talked about, super high percentages, which you'd never agree to, super impossible processes to perform. There's a lot of things that can happen in there. Once you get past that and you and your attorney have negotiated what you believe are acceptable terms, to me, from the business side, that's how you build the process. All right, the lawyers have worked out what our agreement is. Now we build production around meeting these metrics, as you were talking about. This is very metric driven. That is the process, but you cannot do that without a lawyer. Those things are about as onerous of a contract as I have seen written. It is extremely one-sided, as you would expect. I hope your contracts are one-sided too, by the way. Your contracts should be favoring you in all ways. So will theirs, but you're going to have a lawyer look at that. But once you and the lawyers have agreed on what you can do and what you should do, then you build your processes around that to make sure that you can deliver on the metrics that you agreed to.
That's good. It's worth the price of admission right there. Seriously. So how many of y'all been to some kind of event or conference within the last 6 months? Tim?
Yeah, I wanted to thank you guys. Come on around.